decided to snoop through my daughter's diary. It completely ruined my life. I came home from a Christmas party, feeling like the belle of the ball. My charming date brought me roses and flirted on me all evening. I wore a slinky velvet dress and danced the night away happily. When I returned home, I went to check on my 3 sleeping children. I knew my 14-year-old daughter had a big paper due soon that she was concerned about. We would have discussed it had I been there. Her computer was open, so I clicked to see what she had been working on. Instead, it was an online journal. I thought to myself for a second because I didn't want to invade her privacy. But my curiosity got the best of me. The latest entry discussed an incident she had experienced with my charming date for the evening. He had been strictly a client for 7 years, but our relationship slowly warmed into something more after I split from my husband. The client became my most trusted friend and a frequent visitor to our home. We were testing the waters of romance, slowly, cautiously, and respectfully. Or so I thought. I am very protective of my children, so this absolutely blew my mind. I could see when my client, Ralph, first met my daughter at age 12, that he was obsessed with her. I took his attention as sweet and welcomed a father figure into her deflated life. When he brought me flowers, he would bring her a smaller bouquet. He would take each of us arm in arm to lunch. He would give her little gifts, while ignoring my sons. I never suspected anything was amiss. I had never been more wrong about a person in my life. Her journal entry revealed a sickening story of a young girl who had been slowly preyed upon and her innocence taken away. Little by little, visit by visit, over a 2-year period. Kind words and smiles turned to casual touch, then to inappropriate grabbing, then forced actions that would be enough to convict him of felony charges. Although she loathed him and his visits, she felt she could not tell anyone. She worried more about me and my future happiness than her own. She sulked quietly, hurt herself to the point of cutting, and buttoned up stoically. After I saw the evidence of cutting, I took her to a psychiatrist, but she refused to talk. I related these stories to Ralph and he seemed so concerned for her welfare. She wrote in her online journal words that seemed too awful to be true. The journal became the state's evidence against Ralph. We agreed to press misdemeanor charges to save my emotionally devastated and frightened daughter from the necessity of a court trial. The state's attorney gave him a year in come-and-go prison, where he was free to continue work, but reported to jail every night. The charmer was still able to finagle special privileges from his jailers during that time. He always loved to straddle the lines to see what he could get away with. Although he admitted to me that he didn't care for people, he had a gift of false modesty and a witty sense of humor that opened doors and made him a successful salesman. He would need to admit his charges to his employers and his neighbors for the rest of his life. I bet after hearing his version of the story, they believed he was still a great catch. Poor guy. He would not be released until he had successfully completed counseling. Which I'm sure he charmed his way through quickly with flying colors. I ran as far away from my glamorous urban life as I could. I felt the smug scorn emanating from my family, friends, and neighbors. I felt I had shown my kids a garden path that was dangerous and false. So, I brought us to the mountains of Colorado, to show another way of living that was more about healthy lifestyles and natural beauty than about career prestige and fancy possessions. I gave up my American dream of shallow success, and traded my BMW and the fancy clothing for an old Subaru, a couple of horses, and blue jeans. I married a poet-musician who shares these values.